This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Nanette Bartow here again with another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. This week we are going to be discussing in further detail some of the solves by Harriet Suchet, which I am hoping she's able to get back online with us. We had her a few minutes ago. I'm going to catch us up on some research that has continued since last week. We'll go ahead and throw up the presentation right now for this point. So basically, I had gone back and done some research, and I am reading through the Texarkana Phantom files, the Moonlight murders listed in the FBI FOIA archives. One of the things I wanted to pull out and point out, because I thought honestly that aside from the limited amount of information we had in Texarkana, if I could glean something from Texarkana that would also assist in putting these puzzle pieces together, that might be probative. So I am going back through about 1,000 pages from FOIA. Some of the stuff is extremely complicated to read, and other stuff is basically redacted. So there's just, you don't get to see the entire message. But what I was able to find was that in the Starks murders, the couple's murder that were shot in the house in the Texarkana Phantom reign, that they found that the Western Super X caliber 22 long or long rifle cartridge cases were the actual bullets that were used in that spree. Now, if anybody is familiar with the Zodiac case, he actually wrote to include that he had used the Western Super X caliber 22. And then we know that in Edwards and Dominguez, that was exactly the type of bullets that were found in the shack where they were attempted to have been burned. We know that in Swindles, he was also shot with a long rifle 22. And now we obviously show that causal link to the Texarkana Phantom. They were a little hesitant in including the Starks murder into the Lover Lane murders in the Texarkana Phantom because obviously it was a different gun. It was kind of a different MO. But when we look through the Zodiac stuff, we'll find that he has these different MOs, including this type of gun, including Jack having this type of gun. The next gun that was actually used, it's all over the internet that it was a Colt pistol. And what I actually found in there is that they'd indicated that the rifling characteristics appearing on the bullet specimen C1 were found to be most similar to those appearing on bullets fired from the caliber 32 Colt automatic pistol. So they're making a reference in comparison to, it is pointed out that the Colt type weapon is the only American made weapon having 6 lands and 6 grooves with a counterclockwise twist. There are, however, some foreign made weapons having the same general type rifling characteristics as the Colt. So as I read this notice from the FBI, they are not indicating that it was a Colt. They're stating that that rifling pattern was consistent with the Colt, but there are foreign made weapons that also share these same patterns. I would have thought if it had been a solid match to the Colt that they would have indicated it was a solid match. So I'm going to err with what they've got on here, which is a possible foreign made weapon. And the reason for that is that at the time the Texarkana Phantom murders, they were searching for the suspect. They had somebody in custody for robbery, and he was awaiting charges. And they also thought he was the Phantom. So we have this other outlying murder that we talked about early on, the Dania Beach in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And that murder did include a .32 weapon. Only difference is that they actually indicated that it was a foreign make of gun that was suspected. So again, a .32 caliber, they said, had been the weapon of destruction, although it was believed to have been a foreign make and not what they called the familiar Colt that the Phantom probably used. So obviously this information that I've taken from the internet is somebody who is quoting what is being said in the Dania Beach murders, but they're not necessarily backtracking to the Texarkana Phantom to see that the information there also is really kind of leaning towards a possible foreign make, since they didn't adamantly identify the .32 Colt. So I just wanted to throw that out there. We do know that Jack also had a gun back in that era, in which case he talks about having to go to the judge and get that gun back because he had been arrested, and he knew that that gun being in custody could potentially tie him to other crimes. And those were the words that he had used with Dennis. So moving on with that, I actually had come across a website while I was searching the postal cancellation marks on the Sherry Joe Bates stuff, because we are going to revisit at least one of those letters, and the I'm hoping she can get back with us. Is she back with us, Juan, or is it just me? Did we lose Nolan too? Nolan is here, and still no Harriet, huh? That's getting really weird. Okay. Well, anyways, I had Harriet isn't back yet. Oh no, my entire show is completely predicated on her. I hope we haven't lost her entirely. I'll have to make something up as we go. Anyways, so I had skipped across a website. Now be careful, because it told me that it wasn't to be trusted when I went onto it. I use a wave browser from DuckDuckGo, so that I literally don't have to worry about who's watching or looking at what it is that I'm doing. And that told me that this particular website was not to be trusted. I brought this up because also, the website is powered by something called GovPress, or WordPress theme for government, which I thought was interesting, because I didn't know the government was out there designing or making websites based on the Zodiac case. So whoever this person is trying to purport himself to be somebody legitimate, though we're going to talk about some of those inconsistencies and errors or omissions that they're making themselves. So as I'm going across this, I find his website, and of course he has his listed suspects. And while I'm there, I'm really looking at the postmarks. He's also made the notification that November 1st postmark that we looked at in regards to the press enterprise envelope and the Patricia Houts letter was not mailed in April of 1967, as purported on the Tom Voigt website. So he's obviously attempting to clear that up and state some facts that letter was not mailed at that time, nor was it mailed with those other letters. In doing so, I thought I'd just take a look and see who he had as suspects. And of course, at the very top of his list is Arthur Lee Allen, which just absolutely infuriates me, because if you're wanting to tell the truth, everybody knows that Allen was a suspect. Why even take the energy, time, or space on your website to continue to perpetuate that thought or feeling, even if you are saying that he was later exonerated? By all means, because this man was exonerated well before he should ever have been put on to a website. But so I noticed that Arthur Lee Allen is his first person, and he has about 6 or 7 other people. And of course, Jack Terrence is not listed there. No surprise. Nobody wants to actually perpetuate the Jack Terrence theory, because Jack matches so well. So I saw at the bottom of that list where he had indicated there was daddy issues. And that was, I guess, a link for additional people claiming that they had parents that were the Zodiac. And of course, that's Dennis's plight. It's his stepdad. And this is what he had to say. He said, and now we have even more lunatics adding their names to the list of funny fellows, comic men, and clowns of private life who have disgraced themselves in their efforts to exploit the unsolved mystery. Dennis Kaufman has been accusing his now deceased stepfather, Jack Terrence, of the Zodiac crime since 2000. Back then, his wild claims and tales did little to impress those who studied the case or those in law enforcement. For some reason, those who are in charge at Sacramento's CBS 13 television station have taken on the role as Kaufman's unabashed PR firm. Reports from CBS 13 seem to be little more than talking points handed down by Kaufman and unverified by any of the so-called journalists at the station. I absolutely about fell out of my chair. First off, he didn't mention me, and I thought that was absolutely fabulous. That, or he probably didn't want to commit defamation or slander, so he probably left me completely out of it. Needless to say, I worked with Chris Pickle at CBS 13 News, and it was very sad. She spent lots of time with us, many hours. She had wonderful interviews set up, and when she would get back to the station, she'd find out that her time had been cut to seconds, let alone minutes, that she had to really kind of try and condense all of this stuff down to. So if it sounded like talking points, absolutely. Was that all she wanted to say? Absolutely not. Did she also believe Dennis? Completely. She worked with the FBI, as I did with Chris Hopkins. With Dennis, she saw the evidence. She was there with me. She watched the handwriting unfold. She was on his side because she believed the evidence she saw, despite people telling us that we were crazy. I do see that he also mentions on his website that Zodiac DNA, the magic bullet, as it says up here, Zodiac Killer Facts, that the Vallejo Police Department recently submitted 2 Zodiac envelopes for DNA testing, and a substantial DNA profile could be used to search the ancestry databases. Well, why start there? Why go through all of that work when we're asking you to test one person who's been on the list for a very long time for this test? I personally believe that FBI should run Jack's DNA and compare that to the Vallejo PD source. And we're going to talk about where that source is going to come from. So basically, just to kind of give you some background, I talked before about 20 on 20 with Harry Phillips, and that he had ran the DNA in the Zodiac killer case. I want to say somewhere around 2008. It was before me, so I'm not exactly sure of the date. But I did actually have an opportunity to speak to him while we were airing on Aphrodite Jones' True Crime, the Zodiac episode on Investigation Discovery. And that very day when I spoke to him, he had indicated to me that when I asked why Jack wasn't ran, he said they knew the other 8 suspects were not the Zodiac. Well, what does that mean? That is not an answer to why Jack was not ran. And to my knowledge, they had at least an envelope in which they were due to run DNA on in regards to that. So I'm about to introduce you to a conversation. I'm going to give you some context for it, and then we're going to play it. But you're about to hear Dennis Kaufman speaking to Chris Hopkins of the FBI in regards to the DNA evidence that had been turned over to the SFPD, and in specifics to Detective Kelly Carroll. And in an effort to save time, I'm only going to play a few minutes of this, but I will cover the entire message at a later time as it pertains to the case. So, again, a little more background before we start that audio is that in 2002, the SFPD actually botches the first envelope that is sent to them. So the envelope you're going to hear them talking about, the lab had swabbed the stamp and swabbed underneath the lip of the envelope. And when they pooled these 2 sources, they actually came up with 2 DNA samples, and it had indicated that there was no way for them to make a comparison to the Zodiac DNA because without being able to separate out that second DNA donor, they wouldn't know what was left to compare to the Zodiac, which I kind of don't really know if I entirely believe that. Is it entirely scientific to compare 2 samples to 1 sample? It could be if those markers in the sample that you are looking at okay, good. She's back. Anyways, if you had to at least see if those markers existed inside of those 2 profiles, those markers would either be there or not. And if they're not, then we could exclude and walk away from this. So the big question becomes, why did they botch it? Why did it not get included in 20 on 20? Why have they not paid attention, or at least San Francisco PD paid attention to Dennis Kaufman and his case? And also to note that somewhere between 2010 and 2012, I was here for this, SFPD is actually busted. The entire lab goes down in a blaze of glory because they are botching tests there. And this made the news. Gerald Brown had to come in and reprimand and fire and do all kinds of crazy stuff, do some cleanup and some PR work. But they were literally, I guess, exchanging out drugs for fake stuff or falsifying drug tests, falsifying other tests. I guess whoever probably paid them the most or whoever they were doing their bidding for, they would do whatever they needed to do. Needless to say, it brought into questions thousands of cases that had gone through the SFPD over that time frame from 2000 to 2010 or so. So we're going to go ahead and play this this clip really quick. Hello. Juan, is that clip playing? Have I lost everybody? Huh. Yes, play to the end, please, from the 250 to the end. I can't hear it. Is it playing? I cannot hear the audio. I hear nothing. Can you hear it, Harriet?
Nope. I'm just finding this to be really strange. I don't really call myself a conspiracy theorist, but suddenly my system went when I was saying what I said. And now, yeah. Okay.
Well, hold on one second. He's still working that out. So some technical glitches, everybody bear with us.
Yes, thank you. You know, it's not the government doing this. I don't know what else to say.
They better not be in my computer.
First mine and now yours? Okay.
Yeah, that was weird. That was very weird. I can't believe we heard it just fine when he played it.
We sure did. Yes. Okay.
I know. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. What do I do with my hands?
We could do things that could get your show kicked off for sure.
No. We don't want to do that.
We'll show you some sign language.
Is it playing one? Is Nolan still with us? There he is.
Okay, good. Okay.
My suggestion is maybe give a little more history on Dennis and how it came to be that you and Dennis got together with the handwriting and whatnot and the progression that led.
Yeah. Yeah, I really had thought about that, which was interesting. I know that up here on the presentation, I put at the top and didn't really actually cover, but this letter written to Tom Voigt back in 2002, the individual who's writing him, which I'm going to say is Jack. This letter was actually identified by Charles Terrence as being his dad's handwriting. But he says, knowing now as you do regards the matches of DNA and points that I am the real deal. He's indicating literally that he has sent, and I know the letter that came previous to this one included fingerprints and a package of some sort that I'm assuming must have contained DNA. So he's literally telling Tom Voigt at this point in time, now that you know I'm the real deal. People don't make these statements and put this in writing unless they know they're the real deal. I mean, why else make the inclination that you already know who I am based on the evidence I've sent you? So we know that they've also had DNA from Jack at least since the early 2000s. Absolutely. Basically, let's see. I took it down and oh no, that's still the same one. Are we still having problems, Juan? Is it still not playing? This is crazy. I think I got. Oh, okay. Let's see if you got it working again.
Fingers. This is the nice sign language. The nice sign language.
I didn't tell him a whole lot because I don't want to cause anything between you.
Oh no, that's okay.
Yeah, I just if anything, I was, whatever, I hope you guys are working together on this, get this thing done,
Right.
And I'm looking at it like this guy's a murderer, he's out there, and I don't know. I just want the thing to be over with.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So how'd you leave it with Kelly?
Well, I talked to Ken a while ago. I didn't want to, seem like I was going around your guys' back to talk to him.
No, that's all right, man.
But he wanted to get together next week, and I said, okay, well, I have to talk to you guys first. And I talked to Ken, and he said he didn't have no problem with it.
Yeah.
So I left a message after I talked to Ken and said, I guess we could meet next week, for him to call me. He hasn't called me yet because it was after 5 when I left a message, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was left at.
Okay. Well, I won't be able to be there. I'm going to be out of town next week.
Oh, yeah?
That doesn't matter. I mean, if you and Kelly and Ken can all meet.
Yeah, okay.
I don't bring much to the table other than an ugly mug. So.
No, I know. But I just, I just sitting here and I had to do something. I don't know.
You know what? I don't blame you. And I'm glad you did. Because now, maybe we can get things, he and I had total miscommunication.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it at that. I think he made misrepresentations. He led me to believe he was going to get right on it to include your envelope.
I see.
And when I finally got through to him, he says no. And so, whatever. If that's what he wants to say now, that's fine. And I'm, screw it. It's not worth it,
Right, I understand.
But if he now is willing to meet you and, look at all the information you have, that's what we want.
Right.
We want him to get excited about it as we are.
You guys just want to get solved just like I do.
Right. So if that's what it takes, that's fine. He has this feeling that we're trying to steal something from. We gave him your name. We gave him your stepdad's name.
Yeah, I know you did because he said that.
And we gave him everything. We didn't give him. Well, you brought us because I sent him down an introductory letter.
Right. Yeah, he said that. He confirmed that. Yeah.
So if this is what it takes, that's fine. We have no heartburn over it.
Right. Yeah. I know, I know you've been totally honest with me. You've been very helpful, man. I appreciate it. I feel very comfortable about you.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah.
And I do.
I wish Kelly had the same feeling.
Yeah. But, well, maybe by talking to him, we can all work this thing out and get this thing done, man.
Right.
That's great.
Absolutely.
And, because this thing's been dragging on for 6 months. It seems like 6 years to me, but it's been a long time.
Right.
So if make some progress, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great. And, he's got the ticket down there for his end of it. Now, he likes to bolster, he was giving me this line of shit about, well, it's going to be a local prosecution and, it's his thing. And I said, well, I didn't get into it with him, but the fact of the matter is he only has one homicide in his jurisdiction.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
The other one, there's more jurisdictions that have more into it than he does.
Sure.
And Matter of fact, we do, we are sanctioned by the legislature to work serial murder cases.
Right.
So, I wasn't going to get into a pissy match over turf or jurisdiction. All I want is him to do the DNA.
Yeah, just get the job done. Yeah.
Right. And what, it kind of annoyed me. As I told him initially, our laboratory was committed to a 30-day turnaround time.
Right.
So we would have been so much further ahead than where we are now.
Absolutely.
But, everyone, because it's such a high-profile deal,
right.
Everyone wants to be the one,
exactly.
to say, I was the one who solved this,
Right. And
this was my case, and da-da-da.
Right. And, and I don't think they're also saying that, hey, everybody worked together to solve it, and everybody's,
That's right.
What's wrong with that?
And these, you run into this every now and then with these petty cops.
I'm sure you do.
The real person is you.
Right.
So there wasn't anything that Kelly Keller did to identify this guy as the Zodiac. It was because you had done your homework and you brought it in here.
Right.
So there's really, that's what Ken and I always are laughing about.
Oh,
there's only one guy to get credit for this.
That's true. Thanks.
So the fact that, he's not necessarily a sworn police officer at the time, there's only one guy that solved it.
Wow.
Now, the other guys who just happened to be cops at the time and the place that he came to. But there's one guy who gets the credit, and so Kelly can jump up and down all he wants. But, when the story, is told.
Wow.
Well, he was just sitting on the desk at the time when the phone rang. So.
Right. Well, that's more appreciated. So he feel that way,
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. So, well,
okay. So now I think it gives me goosebumps listening to Dennis and having that him having that conversation. I'd like people to take away from that this phone call is 6 months after he turned in the envelopes over to the FBI, and after Kelly Carroll had made the insinuation that they were going to jump on it. Obviously, he had no intentions to do so. He has been adverse to attempting to assist Dennis in any of this situation from the get. And as far as I know, Dennis never had a good feeling about him and figured he had been round filing all the evidence that Dennis had been walking in. But the bottom line is that here's Dennis calling back 6 months later, trying to find out what's going on with the DNA, only to start getting the runaround. There are several more of these audio recordings in which Kelly Carroll himself speaks. And we know that there now is another sample of Jack's DNA. It turns out there was more than one envelope that was turned over to the FBI. So really all we're looking for people to do is their jobs. Now, I am not trying to cut anybody down or say anybody is lacking in the ability by any means. A lot of this has to do with, link analysis issues or not seeing or being able to put things together based on distance or time and proximity. Jack actually fits all of that. Just like we were talking back about the Texarkana, we wouldn't even be visiting those cases if Jack hadn't been in the area. So I just want everybody to keep in mind, while I'm not crucifying him for having committed all of these murders, but the fact that he was there means that they should be looked at. So after that, I just want to say Sonoma County should collaborate with SFPD to examine Jack's palm print and fingerprints. Napa Sheriff should run Jack's right thumbprint from his military record against the fingerprints from the phone booth in Napa, and Vallejo or 20 on 20 should run the results of Jack's DNA against their findings. Clearly, they were given the opportunity to actually, I guess I'm going to assume they financed it. Big media wants the story, wants to produce it. I was under the impression they were the ones that were in charge of that whole thing. So people need to get themselves together. And then finally, FBI should run Jack's DNA and compare it to the Vallejo's PD source. So we have four different ways that Jack could be excluded if he wasn't the Zodiac. But why will nobody actually do the job? And why will nobody pay attention or list him as a viable suspect? None of it makes any sense. We have a handwriting match, and we have multiple other pieces of evidence that would be hard evidence aside from the handwriting that could conclude these cases. So on to... Let me get back over here to my...
I just wanted to add one more thing. It was at this time period we came up with, the old version. I bought one. I spent $300 on the old first printed version of Robert Graysmith's Zodiac. And it had some nice large pictures in there. And it had the fingerprints especially the first fingerprint that was chopped off that matched Jack's fingerprint that was sent to Tom Voigt. And
Wow.
you don't have to be Einstein to be able to see this. And then the palm print was in there on one of the.
No, you don't. And I actually just did my first. Oh, you can't see this. I just did my first fingerprint examination here not too long ago. So yes, absolutely, we do have enough ridge detail and the ability.
Yeah.
So I've just now brought up, Harriet, your we went back and we looked at the letter that was with the Dear Draft Board note. And you had found that there was a stenographic code in that. Could you explain that for us?
I was our phone conversations that people aren't privy to. When you asked me to do this, I said, "Well, I'm kind of busy this week, but I'll look at it. I'll glance, and
well, let's let we get
anything." And then, oh my God! Oh, did I knock off my? Okay, I'm still here. Okay.
No, you're still here, but I need to kind of just keep it towards the information because we lost a lot of time with that audio.
Well, this is what it's coming up with. I found.
Well, can you explain to us the stenographic code and what you use?
It's what it's usually misspelt words, odd punctuation, missing punctuation. Especially, I'm finding in Jack's world, if it's missing question marks, missing exclamation marks, a weird odd punctuation. And then I find that you spell out the word question mark and then anagram it. And
so unabbreviating like you do with the envelope. You're doing the same exact thing. You're unabbreviating
pretty much. And so it came out with the misspelt words. Well, we'll just get past just all the misspelt words. It anagrammed out and filled in puzzle pieces that went with the envelope. And I went forward. So
I have that up. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, why don't you tell us what that message says?
Well, at that point, I found you moved the PS because he's writing a letter to this time to Nixon. And Nixon apparently inherits the Get Off the Squad. And he's very dejected, very sad. So I'll just read what it fully comes up with. It says, USA presidential candidate in the White House. Oh, hold on a minute. Okay, this is before that. This is when Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King are still alive. It's a Patricia House letter that confirms that Jack.
We're going to get to that one afterwards.
So let's just read this. I'm sorry, I'll be really quick. USA presidential candidate in White House quest, New York, Senator Bobby Kennedy. IO, that means documents in order, years of documents in order. Your big brother, 1963, vast amount of lying traitors in IBTU and UAW, that's the Teamsters Union and United Auto Workers, to suffer the same fate when succeed cinch run, seize the White House in November 5th, 1968, and enjoy a toast with New York 1850, I got to say this right, D'Aguiar rum. It's a word I'm not used to saying. Anyways, then it goes on to say that some of the traitors apparently were John E. Walsh II, run Rose McCabe, murdered, father of land of human on the moon, shot 5 times, Kennedy Cadaver in Econoline van, south of Mexico, west, then go up north to a rural classified Palmdale, California address. And that's the 3 lines and the zip code line. That's on an envelope from 1963. Anyways, medical photographer Marjorie Alette, a.k.a. Myrtle Walker, took autopsy pictures. Now her girlfriend, North American hit shoeless singer Joplin, age 25. Big Brother band is signed by Columbia Records, yet was voted ugliest man, 1962, University of Texas, Austin. And Joplin is a friend of engineering student, NASA's Saturn V moon quest, Robert Abel. Henry Lambright, Syracuse University, Brookings Institute. That's Harry Lambright is with both. Anyways, Al Ibarra, United Auto Workers 887 and -704 Grumman. Those are local unions. Anyways, Northrop Harry Lang, Lewis Research Center, PB Buddy, Pampa, Texas, crop dusting pilot, also British Columbia guy, Dickinson, Brazuria County, 77511, that's the zip code area, Detective Robert Gear, Benjamin Milwitzki, surveyor, January 9th, 1968, robot camera, Earthwise color picture, ... with Lang's 2001 Space Odyssey Metro Goldwyn Mayer backlot set is to credit 21st to 27th December NASA mission 1968 of orbiting the moon, dubbed Apollo 8, with Bureau of Printing and Engraving, Houston, Texas, Giori Press, Preparations 11, issue date May 5th, 1969, stamps. P.S. I am wishing on a John F. Kennedy star up in the heavens that in the Oval Office of Washington, D.C., Robert Kennedy as president, along with Dr. Martin Luther King, go catch Columbia Broadcasting System Quest and NBC, ABC to televise Brother John's quest of mission to land a human on the moon by decade's end as Cold War nations, USSR, KGB, moan while shaking a fist. And then he's cussing, but he's spelling it, he censored himself. D88X, that's for NAM, K, and then SHXT, and then DXXX with an exclamation mark. And underneath the rectangle is JWT the second. So he's saying a lot there. So I almost swore, which I shouldn't have sworn. But he's cussing, but he's censored himself there.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's the JFK assassination is referring to a lot of NASA stuff. The Apollo 8 mission was a mission to take pictures of the moon. 8, 9, and 10 were all they weren't attempts to land on the moon. They were all to surveillance, take pictures of the moon's surface, basically. And there's a great book about that I'm reading right now. So also,
I want to go ahead.
There's a quick reference to faking the moon landing too. About
that's going to get a lot of people.
Yeah. So
well, and what I'm catching right now from your messages is that they didn't fake the moon landing, that actually occurred. What they did was fake the picture the year before so that they could try and prove to Russia that they had beat them to the moon. But as Harriet has indicated, you cannot do light speed around the moon in a robot and get a steady picture of anything. So let me ask you really quick. Let me ask you really quick about a few things. I noticed that the message included South to Mexico. Now, if anybody has been following this entire podcast, you've heard me say South to Mexico many times. So this is not a new message. Robert Abel is listed in the Tim Miller letter as the devil not sought by the Blue Fuzz. The Syracuse University and Brookings Institute, Henry Lambright, how did he play into that?
I did some refreshing, because I grew up in that era and there was constantly news. So anyways, Brookings Institute was a part of the think tank to help, with funding to see what they thought where we're going to go with this moon mission and to help get the funding for the moon mission and to get Kennedy's dream across.
So Grumman and Northrop and Harry Lang and all of these.
On the Brookings Institute report for NASA, that basically said that in our study of the moon, we may eventually find evidence of extraterrestrial life forms and or relics, things like that. And if we do, we should conceal them from the public. That's a
nice
report.
So now Grumman, Northrop, and Harry Lang, Lewis Research Center, all these people are involved with this think tank?
Yeah, well, they were conspiring to help because there was a problem taking pictures. If you look online, there was a problem taking good, clear pictures of what was supposed to look like when they landed on the moon at the right spot and that the Earth was going to rise. So they were just kind of speeding it up because they realized for 5 years they got some really lousy pictures. So
Dickinson not only ties in with, well, I don't know if Abel was actually in Dickinson, but the letter written to Tim Miller was written to Dickinson. And so we have a cross connection there. And we know that he has taken credit for the I-45 and the League City deaths. So again, we have some more cross referencing there. Let me move us on. And here, back at here, I guess I was a little ahead of myself. We can see here in the envelope where it says it's mailed to Tim Miller. His daughter was killed by I'm going to call it the Zodiac. We see that it's mailed with a return address of Tom Humble. And now, mind you, this letter is in 2005. And in 2002 and 2003, he is writing Tom Voigt, who is the guru of Zodiac consulting for all of your media and movies. And he is telling Tom, my humble offer for telling the right story, which is Jack's story and not what the media has been portraying. Obviously, down here is the Nassau Horseman. Abel is not the devil sought by the League City Blue Fuzz. And there are more. So completely staying consistent. I asked Harriet to go back and take a look at the Sherry Jo Bates, Patricia Houts letter. And in and actually reviewing it myself, we had the desktop poem with the RH. That could be Randolph Hearst, as I indicated before, that he's trying to send this message to. And then I noticed that Patricia Houts, the person they couldn't find, could also be an alias for Patricia Hearst, because of course we know that this letter written by the Zodiac killer in regards to the SLA obviously also revolves around Patty Hearst. And then we show that during this time the SLA was actually writing consistently to Hearst and calling him out about his practices and making money off of murder and people's sadness. And they really hated Hearst for his yellow journalism, the sensationalizing of all of these crimes. And I think that that's additional clues that may connect to media. So we were taking a look at these as it pertains to the actual letter itself. So let's see, it yields Nixon. Oh, I put down your saying here, so you can take it from here. This is actually the Patty Hearst, the Patricia Houts letter itself, and you said that you found that was an anagram.
This is where I was floored, because as I was reviewing it, I saw the Z and I said, I know this Zodiac hasn't started. And the last time the Z threw me for a loop was because I'm doing the exercise 45 stuff again. He's bringing up saying the zit face hit shoeless singer. And so when I went with that as a code key phrase, zit face, and then I came up quickly with MoonQuest friend Abel. And then of course, the Monterey Pops Festival. Oh my God. It really came out pretty quick, and then I sent this to you. I wasn't thinking I was going to get it out this week, but so I'll read it really quick. This is what I got. It's saying, "Hi, Richard. You're voted the president-elect. Washington, letter by JWT, II for JWT the second, ... with Monterey Pops Festival, Zitface hit singer, MoonQuest friend Abel, to the Syracuse Draft Board, H. Lambright, Robert Kennedy, William Shakespeare quote, think of Kennedy in a quote, wishing on a star, Dr. Martin Luther King, brother, ... together at the Oval Office while Apollo 11, the mission is going from from July 16th to July 19th, 1969. And then it's pausing and saying, I.O., his famous Latin phrase, he's always bringing that up. Documents in order, years of stuff, years of work. And then it says, hope, Cold War nation, shake fist, etc. Thought would be true, and I can't say the word on the air, can I? Because he's cussing this time. Okay, it says, thought would be true, but shit. UPI, they to report solemnly, holy, and then in parentheses, both holy or clout, true obit throughout the year.
All right, so I have all kinds of questions now.
The Zitface singer is Janis Joplin.
Correct. So this letter is actually running in tandem with the message that came out of the draft board messages, which is absolutely amazing to be coming up with the same exact words. Yep, it's basically confirming the other message. I was not
expecting this.
Now, here's the thing. I have this star above November 1st, 1967, because that's the typewritten date on the letter. But based on the information here, Harriet and I have been debating whether or not this was mailed as a predictive communications, that he's predicting that MLK and RFK are going to die and that he's going to write the draft board, or if this is actually in hindsight because it's written a year later, which obviously doesn't confirm or coincide with the doesn't coincide with the timing or the dating of the envelope. But Harriet said that in order for the message to maintain its consistency, the date had to be written incorrectly. And that's your belief, correct?
Yeah, that's my belief. It anagrams flawlessly out to the date that was supposed to be for the future Apollo 11, which it took 2.5 to 3 years for every mission at the time, and they were trying to perfect that. So that was the scheduled date. Because of all kinds of things that was going to happen in the universe, they had to pick that time frame, and that was going to be at the end of the decade that they were actually going to land a human on the moon. So,
well, and this is why I started studying the postmarks, is to determine whether or not there was a difference in the postmarks from the original 3 letters that were mailed in April of 1967. I do find actually that the postmark that is used on the Patricia Houts letter is completely different from the one that is used on the 3 letters. But I have already, and we'll talk about this a little more later because I'd like to stick to this right now. But I did find a difference in the postmark, and of course I'm doing some research with the Stamp Society and things like that in regards to those and how that worked. But if this was before, it would have been predicting what was to come, which is MLK and RFK dying and Nixon getting into the White House, which the FBI has indicated that many of these communications from the Zodiac actually predicted his next crimes. So it fits either way, even if this was after. But I do see the note to the Syracuse draft board, which makes me think that he's going to be sending something to him. So I look at it like he's predicting the future, and you're looking at it like this was written a year off.
Yeah, I'm just following how his world, it's mainly him because he's apparently the best at this, is doing this. Because I have I know, oh, you can see it. Okay, I have it right here. And there is the envelope that I did that you haven't seen, or we haven't really covered it. But the envelope, I can read what the anagram of everything on the envelope, the same system eventually does say. It says ye, I'll just read it this way. It says ye, November 5th, 1968, PE, which is President-elects. Nixon, World War II veteran Frank Sheeran I, drive to Riverside. Sorry, pretty Genevieve's River era queen, Cherry Joe Bates killed at a certain date, a certain time. That's this headline. He's sorry that the headline was big. And then it says something about DiMaggio wife, sad sister, arranged Marilyn Monroe and Robert Kennedy, the first daughter, Gladys adoption. And then it says, because of all of this, i.e., future, 5 future AP stories. 1, World War II vet Terrence II sent 3-part Zodiac cipher to San Francisco Chronicle, AU, which means in Latin for ad usum, for use in papers. 2, Farron. 3, P. Stein. 4, Lass. And DT, which is a Gran Torino, September. And then it's saying the 5th big story is going to be Emeritus President, International Teamsters Union, and Sam Giancana. Sit, eat at Macus, Red Fox, and the 2 dies July 30th, 1975. He's predicting all of that. This is a plan set in motion now under Nixon.
That's crazy.
This letter had to be 68. It was post-election 68 because you were president-elect before you take the oath of office, but after the election. So I think it's a little bit after the first week of November 68.
Yep.
Also, Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King were both killed in 68. So this is after they were killed. This letter's still making their deaths in a way. So it wasn't written in 67. It was after the election in 68. But
and
it's
everybody's
before January.
angry. Everybody's upset. And Nixon apparently is like on board. Let's get these
Well,
guys.
imagine how mad we're going to make the Zodiac world by telling them that the letter they see typed up November 1st, 1967 wasn't actually written until 1968.
No,
And now
it's just
I
a
have
read
to
in.
find a way to prove that that letter was actually written. So that's why I'm doing the checking on the postmarks themselves. It looks like we've ran out of time, you guys, and we might have to revisit once again these. I think
Well,
we did get a
hey.
little bit more through this time. I really appreciate it, Harriet, and thank you, Nolan, for
This
being
is
here.
the process and finding the truth. But thank you for asking me to do the Patricia House because I didn't expect that one. Okay,
I didn't either. I mean, it blew me away, and it's still if it's not predictive, it's foretelling. Or if it's not foretelling, then obviously it's telling about what has already occurred. So, you guys have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see everybody next week, and we'll see how next week's podcast goes and what we have to show everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Oh,